Welcome to a Community Partners interview where we explore the organizations, opportunities, and resources that look to make change in our daily lives. I'm your host, Jocelyn Dore, and you're listening to Voices for Ability Radio. All abilities, all the time. Today, I'm joined by Jamie Hall, the Corporate Communications Manager of Empower Simcoe. Since 1953, Empower Simcoe has been a cornerstone of support for individuals with intellectual disabilities, driven by a passionate volunteer board of directors. Founded by visionary parents as a compassionate alternative to institutional care, their nonprofit organization has evolved into a dynamic network of services that empower lives across the region, from early childhood programs to community living and comprehensive housing supports. Empower Simcoe is committed to fostering inclusion, independence, and meaningful connections for all they serve. Thank you for joining us today, Jamie.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to work for Empower Simcoe and to work with individuals with disabilities.
As you mentioned in the introduction, I'm the corporate communications manager at Empower Simcoe. My title has changed a little bit over the years. I've been with our agency for 10 years, sort of a second career move for me, but started as the stakeholder relations manager. That became the marketing and communications manager. That became digital solutions and brand marketing, and now corporate communications manager. So as sort of our agency has evolved, so has my title. But I started out originally in broadcasting. I started out in radio many years ago. My first career was here in Barrie area. I know we're talking to a wide geographic area, but in Barrie in central Ontario. But I started in broadcasting, had a love for radio. I worked in Kitchener-Waterloo as a student, then Thunder Bay, then Owen Sound, and then came to Barrie, and I was doing a morning show here, and I was also volunteering at the agency at the time that was called Barrie and District Association for People with Special Needs. And that would have been in the 90s. And our agency has, as we've grown, the names have changed, and we rebranded to Empower Simcoe in 2019. But I was also volunteering. I was volunteering in my role as media, radio. On-air personality, and I was volunteering, and I was doing, hosting a number of events for the agency. And at the same time, as I was getting older in radio, I was thinking, broadcasting is very much right now, it's going through a downsizing phase. And as I was getting older in the business, and as I was starting a family, I was looking for sort of, a second career option that I might have. I didn't know what it was, just because I was feeling a little vulnerable in broadcasting, because you hear a lot about the layoffs that are happening at Chorus Entertainment and Rogers and Bell, and so I kind of knew eventually it might catch up to me, just because that's the way traditional media was sort of going through those changes in the 90s, and still today. But lo and behold, after 30 years doing the morning show, and being in the Barrie area, my predecessor here at now Empower Simcoe was retiring. And the CEO called me up because I'd been volunteering, and they knew me, and they asked me, would I be interested in the position? And it seemed like just such a natural and easy fit, and it was exactly what I was looking for, and it was a chance to do something very, very meaningful in my role. And 10 years later, here I am.
Wow, that's really impressive. That's quite a journey. While doing my research, I saw that you have something called fee for service. Can you tell us what the fee for service is about?
Sure, we have a number of programs, and it's come out of Journey to Belonging. So that's something that through the province of Ontario and through the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services for all agencies in the province, we're evolving our support that are a better fit for the people we support. It's the things that they want to do. It's the things that they, rather than us saying, here's the activity for the day. This is what we're going to do. And someone we support might say, well, yeah, I like bowling, but what I really love to do is swim. I love swimming. So it was out of all of the communication we've had and the surveys we've done, we tried to identify what are the activities that people supported really, really want to do. And that's where sort of at its most basic, what Journey to Belonging is about. It's doing the things and the achieving and reaching for the goals that the people we support want to do, rather than us creating the programming without that input. So fee for service, there are programs that are that we've crafted and cultivated that's not only for the people we support, but it's also for the broader community. So I can think of our Snoozlin therapy. Our Snoozlin therapy programs, which is light sensory therapy for adults with developmental disabilities, but also we have children's Snoozlin therapy, and we were providing that service just for the people we supported. But now we've opened it up to the broader community, where anyone in the community with a need that we may not necessarily be supporting at that given moment, they can access those services at a small and reasonable cost. And so we have a number of great fee-for-service programs that are tailored for youth right now, for summer camps, for adults who are participating in their community. One of our popular ones is our cooking with capabilities course, and that's learning basic kitchen skills and learning to be more comfortable in the kitchen and cook meals on your own in your own environment. And so what we're finding now is that yes, it's very popular with the people we support, but we're also getting people we aren't supporting who are still interested in accessing some of our services at a very small cost.
I also saw on your website that you have a couple of different services available. Can you tell us what services you have to offer?
Maybe you can clarify for me what's the services you were talking about, because we have so many of them. Any more clarification on that?
I guess just kind of give us an overview of your main ones, I guess.
Well, yeah, we are one of the province's largest multi-service agencies in the province, and by that, we when we say Community Living Toronto or Community Living Ottawa or Community Living Belleville or Community Living Kingston, we know immediately, those supports that those agencies provide for people with developmental disabilities, and those are our core supports as well. But we can't call ourselves a community living agency because we have other programming that is outside of the developmental services sector, and that's, for instance, our early on child and family centers. We have three main centers in Barrie, in Bradford, and in Thornton, Ontario, and then we have a number of probably on any given week 10 satellites for the early on programming, where the programming is out in the community, and it could be at a local church or at a local community center. So going into the communities where it's can be easier to access for parents and caregivers, and that's for parents, caregivers, and children 0 to 6 years of age, to access some of the programming. And that's a very big program that is not necessarily centered or anchored around a diagnosis or a developmental disability. So that's one of those programs that we facilitate that falls under our agency being a multi-service agency. The other big one that's a growing need for all communities right across the country is our regional housing support services program. So Empower Simcoe is one of the lead agencies in Simcoe County for finding affordable and sustainable housing for individuals facing chronic homelessness in the community. And Again, it's a multi-service program that is offered. There are great challenges with the people we support in those programs, whether it's mental health or whether it might be addiction, great social challenges. However, again, it's not necessarily anchored around a developmental disability, and so those are probably some of the other programs that you were referencing that make Empower Simcoe a multi-service agency.
Yes, you've got like a really impressive list of different programs. You definitely serve a lot of diverse groups of people. What are your family services and housing supports all about?
I touched on our housing program, but I guess for our we call it our accommodations program, but our housing for people with developmental disabilities, we operate 40 plus supported group living homes in Barrie and Aurelia. And those are staffed 24/7 for people with developmental disabilities. They're people that might have slightly higher needs, that need that 24/7 support. And that's the largest program that we have here at Empower Simcoe with the most employees, as you can imagine. We also have what's called supported independent living. So those are for adults with developmental disabilities who are a little more independent and can have the ability and the desire to live on their own. They might have a roommate or they might have their own apartment. They just need a little help from time to time, whether it's for grocery shopping, for instance, or going to appointments, accessing the community. And so we call them SIL workers, supported independent living workers. They would, make their appointment on a needed basis with the person they support, and they would go to their home and check in on them, and then when the appointment's done, the person has their own apartment, and we'll see you at the next appointment. So that independence is everybody wants that. Everybody wants to have a certain level of independence, and we're thrilled that we can run that program as well. That's it, sort of some of our housing programs, and then forgive me, the other programs you were
Your
about?
family services.
Family. So family, and really, we support people right across the full spectrum of life, from birth to end of life. So, a newborn is born with the risk of a developmental disability, and that's where our infant and child development team would be working with parents to connect them to resources that they're going to need through the first years of the baby's life. But then as the child grows and starts to approach the age where perhaps they're going to start to be attending school, that's when the supports evolve into our family program, where our family support workers are going into the home, and they're meeting with the entire family. They're meeting with the caregiver. They're meeting with the child that we support, and they're continuing to help connect with resources and needs of the family, to live their fullest life. Because any caregiver knows that when you're supporting someone with a developmental disability, it's 24/7. And our workers are there to assist the family in the journey, the transition from whether it's into school or whether it's out of school, whether it's transitioning from high school to post-secondary education or into the workforce, and becoming an adult.
I saw on your website that you have something called Summer Adventures Camp. What is the Summer Adventures Camp all about?
Well, it's youth, it's high school aged youth of all abilities, so it's a wonderful inclusive program. And so right now it's running for, I believe, 8 weeks, and I believe the first week kicked off first week of July. And so every week there's a different theme. I know the first week was exploring Aurelia, So again, we're Simcoe County, we're Barrie, we're also Aurelia, and so there's wonderful activities outdoors, wonderful attractions to see in the Aurelia area. So the youth who've signed up for this particular week, they're doing that. But then there's also, I know there's sports and recreation themed week. There's also a week where they go to, I think, some excursions perhaps down in the Toronto area. There's a science and sort of an inventors week where we have the Innisfil Ideas Lab where they're going in and they're doing great fun science related things and crafts and um, uh, uh, experiencing so many different things. Each week has just a fun theme, and so that is our summer program for youth, high school age youth of all abilities. And we've had some university students that have been hired for the summer that are some of our summer youth workers. So we're getting to know some new employees as well with the program.
That sounds amazing and a lot of fun. I'm sure a lot of people enjoy that. Are there any restrictions to becoming a member of Empower Simcoe, such as age or disability types?
No, not at all. No, you have to. I know it's a process for families to go through in applying to the DSO. So in order to access services and supports with Empower Simcoe or with any agency in the province, you have to go through Developmental Services Ontario to apply. There's an assessment process to see if you qualify. And of course, it's on what it comes down to, which is the great, maybe one of your questions coming up. Forgive me if I'm going to answer it already, but the great challenge is, whether the funding is in place. That we receive our funding primarily from the province, from the government of Ontario, and we have to wait for that green light to ensure that we have that funding in place in order to support that person. And once they qualify, then we can set up the needed supports and services with that family.
Without using any names, can you share a success story with me? What supports were put in place when someone asked for help?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many that happen every day. I can think of I'm thinking of I'm in charge of our social media, so I get to share a lot of the great stories. But I can think of a young girl that we support, a young woman we support through our employment program. So these are people with developmental disabilities who have the means and the desire to work in the community at a meaningful wage, meaning minimum wage and up. And so I was working with this young woman to, starting with developing job skills and basic things like, how to put a resume together and, what questions might be asked in a job interview. And so we have a number of programs that help prepare someone for employment in the community. And it was this young woman's desire to work. And so she participated in a number of programs, and we can successfully say that this young woman now works. She's got a job at Michael's because she loves crafts, loves arts and crafts, and so she's working at Michael's in a part-time capacity. And this celebration social media post that I put up showing her on the job, it's become our highest generating social media post. It got the most shares and the most likes. So there's an everyday success story right there that it resonated with the our social media community. But the fact that someone started out with the basics and now is working and making a meaningful wage, and everybody loves a purpose and going to work and providing customer service. And so there's a great success story right there. And our employment support services coordinators not only work with the people that want to work in preparing them for employment, but they also work with the employers to help with the relationship and provide that. It's sort of a two-way street between the employee and the employer, because inclusive employment is something that we staunchly believe in, and it's wonderful to see in action, and we love being able to promote it. So there's a success story right there.
What is one thing you see happening over and over again to individuals with disabilities that shouldn't be? And how do you think it could be stopped?
Well, I still think from accessibility in the community, I still think we've got a long way to go, whether it's Barrie or whether it's Aurelia or whether it's other places in the province. There are probably barriers that someone with a developmental disability encounters on a day-to-day basis, and we're not doing enough, whether it's accessing a store or a community center. And when I mean accessibility, it's not just physical accessibility, but it could be visible. It could be someone who has hearing impairment. Also, I think it's the accessibility in our community around understanding people with developmental disabilities. I can think of one gentleman that we support who has a diagnosis of, he also has a cerebral palsy diagnosis, and I know that this gentleman has mentioned on a number of occasions he's been walking in our our downtown area, and whether it's a passerby or whether it's even our the local police, they've stopped him thinking that he's intoxicated or he's inebriated, because he's walking funny, and that's not the case. He has a physical disability, and that he has cerebral palsy, and so I think a lot of it, certainly there's the infrastructure improvements we could be making to our communities to make them more accessible, whether it's riding the bus, accessing local transit, your cab, local cab transportation. But I think it's also the awareness by all of us, that people of all abilities. I mean, everyone has some form of a disability. I have to wear glasses. I have to wear. I'm constantly sort of trying to read the fine print, and so it's recognizing that we all have different abilities, and so rather than focusing on the disability, we like to focus more on the ability, but creating that awareness, I think, is the key thing amongst everyone in our community.
If someone wanted to become a member or a volunteer with Empower Simcoe, what is the process for joining as a member and what is the process for joining as a volunteer?
Well, if you're talking membership, then and then we have our board of directors, so we have sort of our governance structure that any agency like ours, any non-for-profit agency would have. So when talking membership, that's the being able to show up at the annual general meeting, and there are things that you can vote on for approval, and that's just reaching out to us. I believe to become a member. There's a small annual fee, very minimal annual fee that would be required to become a member of Empower Simcoe. As far as volunteering, that would be reaching out. You can do that through empowersimcoe.ca, through our website, and just search volunteer. We have a volunteer page, and it starts with filling out an online application form with your basic information on where you live and your contact information and how we can get a hold of you by email, but also your background and why you want to volunteer and what areas that you think that you can give back to our agency. We ask for your interests and hobbies, and so that helps us make the connection with the program that we might have some volunteer opportunities with. We ask for your availability, like when you might be available to volunteer. Some people might say, it's weekends only or it's evenings only. So we ask all of that information, and we ask for references, 3 references. And so once we get the application in, and we feel it's okay, this is a really good candidate for volunteering, we check references, and then we would have an onboarding meeting where we would go over more information about Empower Simcoe and our programs, and go over some of our policies around confidentiality and privacy and accessibility, because those are important things a volunteer needs to know. And then before any volunteer can start volunteering with our programs, or any employee can start working for our agency, you have to get what's called a criminal reference check and vulnerable sector screening, police checks. So those are two checks that we require, and once that comes back from the local law enforcement agency, then we have the green light for someone to start volunteering with our programs and with the people and the families that we support.
Are there any events coming up for Empower Simcoe?
We've had a busy summer thus far. But we do have. There's always something going on. We just had our golf tournament, which was a big fundraiser for our foundation, our Empower Simcoe Foundation. But our next signature event, and it's really the big one for us. It's coming up in October. It's October the 30th. It's the day before Halloween, and it's Georgian Downs in Innisfil is the venue, but it's our annual Celebrating Community Champions fashion show. And so it features the people and the families we support on the runway, and they've got their modeling clothes from some local clothiers. The clothes are fantastic, but it's really more a celebration and telling their story, and celebrating them in the community. And we also have on the runway, could be anybody from the local mayor to some of our MPPs to the Barrie Colts, our OHL team that is in Barrie. Just local partners, could be some inclusive employers. We've had the Barrie firefighters, our escorts for all the models, and that's just a huge celebration and fundraiser for Empower Simcoe. But we're just going over the models for this year's show, and tickets will be on sale very, very shortly. So we're excited about that. Another event that's coming up, I mentioned our annual general meeting, but it's also our annual general meeting Gift of the Heart Awards, which is September the 24th. And those are awards that we hand out to. It could be an employee, it could be a volunteer, it could be we have two community partner awards. We have a family member award. We have a self-advocate award. So it's a celebration of Empower Simcoe as well. And then the other event I can think of is our early on picnic. We just had our Barrie picnic a couple of weeks ago. Our picnic for families and caregivers and children in Bradford will be taking place September the 16th. So there's lots going on.
Sounds like it. You guys are very busy.
Mm-hmm.
If listeners are looking for more information, how can they reach out to you?
EmpowerSimcoe.ca. That's the best place. I mean, you can look us up on Facebook and Instagram and X and LinkedIn, and we share a lot of our news on those platforms. But EmpowerSimcoe.ca is really the number one way to keep up on all of our programs and the news that we have, and also to reach out for more information.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for joining me today. I really enjoyed learning about Empower Simcoe.
Thank you for asking all these great questions. We're so proud of our 600 employees, the thousands of people and the families that we support in Simcoe County, our volunteers. We're very proud of the work that they do every day to support people and families live their best lives.
Sounds good. This has been a Community Partners interview on Voices for Ability Radio, all abilities, all the time.